self-realization session. So before we begin, let's offer our prayers to Srila Prabhupada and Lord Krishna. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharini Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarini Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Shri Shri Radha Vrindavan Chandrodaya Mandir Shri Shri Nitai Gaura Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So welcome for the Sunday morning session on the science of self-realization. We have been discussing from this book since almost 1 year. We have reached nearly the end of this book. A few more sessions will be completing this understanding of this whole book. So we have been discussing since last few sessions on a very interesting subject known as the highest love. So today we'll continue our discussions on this topic and try to understand more about what Prabhupada wants us to give us understanding this. So this is the topic, the highest love, from the book Science of Self-Realization. And today's session is 4th session on this topic. And our whole inspiration is Srila Prabhupada's teachings, who has so painstakingly written these wonderful literatures for us. Go through them in his advanced age. Srila Prabhupada used to get up midnight, around 12 a.m. and translate the books by dictating in a dictaphone up to early morning 5 o'clock. And those dictated versions will be was later on transcribed. This is how Prabhupada wrote volumes of books on Vedic literatures. So we indebtedly owe our gratitude to Srila Prabhupada. So let's get a recap of what we have understood so far in the last 3 sessions, that we can move forward in our today's discussion. We're discussing on the concept of what is love of God. Just like we have love towards our family, society, country, so many things we love. Sometimes people don't have any relatives, friends, they keep a pet dog and they pour their love on that animal, dog or a cat or some pet animal. So love is something which is very intrinsic of our nature as the spirit soul. This love is actually the exchange of feelings between we living entity and the Supreme Lord. In the original situation, our love is actually with the Supreme Lord. But right now, this love is misdirected, misidentified, and it is wrongly placed to something else. Right? So when we reinstate our situation as spirit souls and thus re-establish our connection with the Supreme Lord as servants of Krishna, that is called love of God. We'll get more insight on this as we move forward. And with regard to this, we understood how Lord Krishna has his abode and his devotees. So it's not some fairy tale or some mythology, as people say. Lord Krishna, Lord Rama, they all are mythology figures, or our scriptures are mythology. Mythology means myth. It doesn't have any existence, which is actually imagination. But this is not the case with Lord Krishna, Lord Rama. The so-called modern educators or modern way of interpretation with regard to the philosophical understanding of Lord Krishna and or Rama is actually completely wrong. So the scriptures, the Vedic scriptures give us a complete understanding about who is Lord Krishna, and he has his own abode. Abode means the place of his residence, and he has innumerable devotees who are having this loving exchange with him. Just like in the material world, we have families, we have communities, we have societies. Likewise, in the spiritual world, Krishna has his own family, his own society, his own community of people. And the qualification to reach Krishna is that we should have no material desires. Right now, our many aspirations, plans, and desires in the material world has kept us bound in the material world. In one life, we make some plans and aspirations, and because we are not able to fulfill those plans, it continues in our next life. Like this, life after life, we have been trying to fulfill our innumerable plans and desires which we have made from time immemorial. So only qualification to reach Krishna is to give up these material desires and have only desire to serve Krishna, which is actually our natural situation. And we should give up all the speculations about existence of God or existence of various aspects of our own spiritual identity, which is all actually going on as speculations nowadays. And in this regard, people are right now interested with religion or economics or gratifying their senses, and for that matter, moksha, for only achieving some material goals. These are called 4 Purusharthas: Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha. Now, actually, these 4 Purusharthas means the 4 purposes for which the human being should aim for, finally, and get liberated from this material world is not fulfilled properly. Dharma is taken as a means to get more economic benefit. And when you get more economic benefit, I try to enjoy my senses, kama, unrestrictedly. And when everything is failing, it's completely frustrating, then I try to aim for moksha, liberation. That is what people think is the right way. But the Vedic understanding gives us the wisdom that the real happiness is possible only by Krishna Prema. Krishna Prema is love of God, which means when you revive our actual relationship with Krishna, relationship is there within us, but it is right now covered, it's sleeping. It has to be revived. Then our real happiness can be, we can reach that stage of real happiness. Otherwise, love of God will only further, love of God is being wrongly misdirected in a different way as love to our family, society, country, which you'll not get actually. At the end of any family member, all that love, what you're expecting, what you're wanting for, is over. Whereas love of God is something which is going to be eternally with us, which is everlasting, all blissful, and all knowledgeable. This is the nature of love of God. And we also discussed on how to cultivate Krishna consciousness favorably. Right? So this love of God is the perfection of life which we are supposed to achieve in this human form of life. How do we achieve it is the next question. Based on that, Srila Prabhupada made us understand that we have to cultivate this aspect of devotional service known as Krishna consciousness favorably. Favorably means the way Lord Krishna wants us to perform devotion, not that the way we want. Right? Whatever Krishna wants, he has revealed his expectations, his desires, his mind in the scriptures, Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavata. So understand them through the proper channel of bona fide spiritual masters. Then we can cultivate Krishna consciousness favorably. And this brings us to an important principle in the whole Vedic understanding, that to have favorable service done for Krishna, we have to go through a transparent medium called the bona fide spiritual master. The important principle is that once you please the spiritual master, Krishna is pleased. This is the principle. Because the spiritual master is the most confidential devotee or associate of Lord Krishna. So he knows what is the mind of Krishna, what is the expectation of Krishna. Accordingly, he will direct us how to perform our activities, day-to-day activities, and that way perfect our lives. And this is what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has, contributed to all of us as his wonderful incarnation of the golden avatara. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Lord Krishna himself, 500 years back. He came down to distribute this love of God. And he practically demonstrated by his own behavior, by his actions. He took the mood of a great devotee, Srimati Radharani, and he was aspiring how Radharani is always hankering and aspiring for Krishna's mercy, Krishna's devotion. So in that mood, as a devotee, as a great devotee, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu demonstrated this to us. It is the highest contribution which Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has given us. He has freely come and distributing the love of God to all of us. In this context, we also understood how all of us are related to Krishna in one of the relationships. There are 5 primary relationships and 7 secondary relationships. The 5 primary are the neutrality or the Shantarasa. Now, just like the flute of Krishna is offering service to Krishna. Right? It's called Shantarasa. And then the next rasa is called the Dasya Rasa or the servant rasa. Wherein the many servants, many wonderful devotees who are acting as personal servants of Krishna. Hanuman, a servant of Lord Rama. And the next rasa of the primary rasas is called the friendship rasa or the Sakhya rasa, like Arjuna was a friend of Lord Krishna. And the 4th rasa, primary rasa, is called the Vatsalya rasa, the parental rasa. Just like Yashoda, Nanda in Gokula, they experienced the wonderful parental relationship with Krishna. So Krishna can take up any role, right? As a friend, as a master, as a son, that Krishna can take up many roles. And the 5th rasa, primary rasa, is called conjugal rasa or the Madhurya rasa, like the gopis in Vrindavan or the queens of Dwarka were experiencing the relationships. All these experiences of friend, or a master-servant relationship, or father-children relationship, or lover relationship is all experienced by us also in the material world with different living entities. Actually, the relationships what we're experiencing here are only perverted reflections of the original relationship which are there with Krishna in the spiritual world. All of us are experiencing one or the other relation with Krishna in the spiritual world. Right now, they are pervertedly reflected in the material world. So, which is like a false imitation. Right? And further, there are secondary rasas like laughter, then ghastly aspect, or fear. Like this, many other rasas are there, which are going to embellish or further enhance the taste of the primary rasas. It's like, after you have made a nice preparation, you garnish that preparation with nice seasoning or some decorations. It will further enhance the taste of the preparation. Like that, the secondary rasas are always enhancing the taste of the primary rasas. So, having understood this much, we also discussed in our previous sessions what is the definition of pure devotional service. We discussed some aspect of this. The aspect of Krishna consciousness service done favorably is called pure devotional service. And what is it actually? We just began the discussion and we mentioned one statement from Narada Pancharatra. Rishikena Rishikesha Sevanam. Right? Serving the master of the senses with our senses is called pure devotional service. So we'll understand more about this in today's session and further some more wonderful, very, very confidential topics in today's session. So service rendered with the purified senses. We're discussing about pure devotional service. And why pure devotional service is required? Because pure devotional service is the only means to attain love of God, Krishna Prema. And this has to be done under the direction of a bona fide spiritual master. So the Narada Pancharatra, one of the scriptures written by Sri Narada Muni, he says, Rishikena Rishikesha Sevanam. Meaning of this is, one must engage not only one's mind, but one's senses. Because in the previous session we were discussing how sometimes people think bhakti means only you have to engage your mind. Your senses can do anything and everything. No, that is not the meaning or definition. Bhakti actually means you have to engage all your senses. There are 5 working senses and 5 knowledge acquiring senses. Karmendriya and Jnanendriya. All of them are under the direction of mind. So all of them with the mind should be engaged in Krishna's service. That is the whole understanding which Narada Muni gives us. So engage the senses in the service of the master of the senses. This is the meaning of this statement. Rishikena Rishikesha Sevana. Engage the senses in the service of the master of the senses. There are 3 Sanskrit words in this statement. All of them are significant. Rishikena Rishikesha Sevanam. We try to understand it a little more nicely. Rishikesha means the Lord of the senses. Rishika, Isha. Rishika means senses in Sanskrit and Isha means master, Lord. So Rishikesha means Lord of the senses. And so the Bhakti Yoga means to serve with the senses, the Lord of the senses. Rishikena means our senses. Rishikesha means the Lord of the senses. Our senses master is Krishna. So Bhakti Yoga, Seva means what? To serve with the senses, the Lord of the senses. So there are 3 components here. The Seva, then the Sevya. Sevya is the personality whom we are going to serve. That is Krishna himself, Rishikesha. And we as Sevaka, that is our senses, are servants of Krishna. So Bhakti Yoga basically means to serve the senses of the Lord of the senses. That is Bhakti Yoga. Very wonderful definition. The Lord of the senses is Krishna, Rishikesha. So this aspect of Krishna being addressed as Rishikesha is very nicely explained in Bhagavad Gita from the very beginning. How Krishna, as Rishikesha, he was directing the senses of Arjuna. He acted as a chariot driver and he was directing Arjuna where to go and whom to attack, how to move forward in the battlefield. That's how we are supposed to have Krishna as our director. When you serve Krishna, when you are having only the mood of serving Krishna, Krishna will give direction as a chariot driver. Right? He will give us wonderful guidance in our life, how to move forward. Otherwise, for us, what to do, where to do, when to do, why to do, so many questions are there. We are not having clarity. We seek consultation or we seek advice from so many people, each of them giving us different advices. Whereas when you have Krishna as our guide, then we will not have any confusions because Krishna is a perfect master. He is a Lord of our senses. We should always remember that we have our senses because we wanted to enjoy this material world. And therefore, the Lord has given us a particular set of senses for our enjoyment. Right now, we have material senses working. Why? Because this senses, the body means senses, mind and senses. So in the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna mentions, based on your inclination to enjoy this material world in a particular way, Krishna has provided some set of senses for us. Right? For example, the hog, the pig, has a particular type of body and senses because he wanted to enjoy eating stool. You see, there are different animals with different type of sensual arrangements. So the hog has a particular type of body and senses because he wanted to enjoy eating stool. Right? Similarly, a man has a particular type of body and senses because he wanted to enjoy something else. So every entity based on their desires. Karanam guna sangosya sadasat janma yonishu. Very nicely Bhagavad Gita explains, or Krishna explains, that based on your inclination to enjoy this material world and your association with the different modes of nature, you will get different types of body, whether higher or lower species. Right? You may get the body of a devata, demigod, or you may get the body of an animal or demonic species. So all this is dependent on your inclination to enjoy this material world, your inclination to enjoy your senses in the material world. We have a particular set of conditioned senses with which to enjoy this material world. This is what we have to purify. Right now, our senses are conditioned to enjoy this material world in different ways. The whole process of devotional service is what? When you engage the senses in service of Krishna, the senses gets purified. That is the whole process of Bhakti Yoga. Our senses are there originally, but now they're covered by material desires. Actually, this body is only an instrument. Just like this shirt I'm wearing, the hand or the collar, whatever is made by the tailor, is based on my body actually. My body has this hand and neck and everything. That's why this shirt is made accordingly. Similarly, we have original senses of the spirit soul, but right now the original senses of the spirit soul are covered, or they're sleeping on sense, and the material senses are taken over the way of functioning in such a way that we can enjoy the material world. This is what has happened in the present situation. So we are supposed to purify our senses, which means when you engage these material senses in the service of Krishna, then the purification begins. And the purification begins and will awaken the sleeping soul. Our real spiritual identity is awakened. This is called pure devotional service and awakening to love of Krishna. So this is a little technical, but it is very important to understand. We have to cure ourselves and become free from such desires. Right? Having material desires for gratifying our senses will only further make us go on in the material world, take different bodies again and again. So we have to stop this whole cycle of repeated birth and death, because this is not the actually situation of spiritual existence. Spiritual existence means Satchidananda. Satchidananda means ever existing, full of knowledge and full of bliss. Whereas presently what we are experiencing, we don't have that guarantee when we're going to, how long we're going to live. We can die any moment, which means this body is not eternal. It is non-permanent. And this body is full of ignorance. Right? We are not aware of many things in this material world. Maybe few things we may know. And is always experiencing miseries, a lot of unhappiness situations. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Dukkhalayam ashashvatam. This world is filled with miseries. And it is temporary material world. So like this, we are living in a situation of Asat, Achit and Nirananda. But our situation of spirit soul is Satchidananda, which is actually contrary. Just like the famous example Prabhupada gives of a fish out of water. A fish is very happy inside the water. But as soon as it is out of the water, it starts flapping itself and it's gasping for the water. And it is like, anytime it can die. Our situation is like this in the material. We have to realize this aspect. Because we are out of the spiritual atmosphere, where in the material atmosphere, it is a foreign atmosphere. It is a totally incompatible atmosphere for us. We are suffering. We are always constantly going through miserable situations. So this we are supposed to cure and free from. And this is possible only when you free ourselves from such desires. When one's senses are no longer inclined toward material sense gratification, one's status is called pure devotion. Right? So this is the status which one has to reach when our material sense gratification aspects are not disturbing us, agitating us, and we are not pushed or pulled by them, driven by them. Then we come to the stage of what is known as pure devotion. Pure devotion is the status wherein you can experience love of Krishna. Until then, we'll be experiencing love of my family, love of my husband, love of my wife, love of my lover. That is, so many things we go on loving, love of my dog, cat. This is what is happening. So an important principle which evolves, which is revealed by Srila Prabhupada in this context is that spirit soul is a person and not impersonal. Right? When I say I have senses, means I'm a person. Anybody having senses means he's a personality. We cannot say he's impersonal. Impersonal means doesn't have senses, doesn't have head, doesn't have leg. Right? So this is a big revelation which Srila Prabhupada is giving us for us to understand and contemplate. From this verse of Narad Pancharatra, we can understand that the spirit soul has original senses. So when Krishna is telling, or Narad Muni is telling, engage your senses in the service of the master of the senses. Which means Krishna, the Supreme Lord, has his original senses, and he has also given us as his part and parcels senses. He has bestowed upon us senses. As a personality, he has given us senses. So, however, this can be understood in a very nice way. However small a body it may have entered, the spirit soul is not impersonal, it has senses. Smallest microbe or a bacteria is also a spirit soul. Spirit soul is actually immeasurable. It is called aprameya. Aprameya means it cannot be measured by our material senses, but it does exist by the authority of scriptures, by the authority of Lord Krishna. Spirit soul's existence is there. Right? So, but the spirit soul, whatever size it may be, smaller than the smallest or the bigger than the biggest, it has senses. Now, you may find sometimes a bug on your book sometimes. Right? It is so small, smaller than a pinpoint, but still it moves. It has all its senses. You would have observed sometimes. It's a small insect. You're reading or some insect moving around here and there. That also is a living entity. It also has senses. All the faculties, like what we have, it has. The small bacteria also move and they have their senses. So there are innumerable living entities, 84 lakh species of living entities, having all the faculties of the spirit soul. But they have different bodies, different dresses, that's all. Originally, all living entities have senses. It is not that the senses have developed under certain material conditions. There's one more wrong theory which the modern scientists are propagating. It's not that the senses what you have got now, they are developed by some material combination or some chemical combination. No. Originally, we have senses. It's like I give the example of this shirt is made based on my body's shape. How I got my body shape? Because the spirit soul has a particular form. The spirit soul is actually having the form of Krishna's form. Two-handed form. So like that's the reason we have human form resembles almost like Krishna's. Man is made of the image of God. I've heard the statement. So man's form is almost like God's. That's why we have 2 hands, 2 legs. There is no other reasoning other than this wonderful, understanding. Somebody may question, why only 2 hands? Why not 4 hands? Why not 8 hands? Why only 2 eyes? Why not 10 eyes? In this question, you cannot answer them. Because our Father, Krishna has 2 hands. He has a form, wonderful, beautiful form. That's the reason we, as his children, we also have form like his. This is understanding. So originally we have senses. But right now the body what we have got is an imitation. The original senses of the spirit soul is right now covered And you are given one more imitation body to enjoy our senses. The atheistic theory is that under material conditions, we have developed senses, and that in spiritual condition, there are no senses, and that we are impersonal. This is the atheistic theory, impersonal Mayavadi theory, that right now we have got senses, but when we are liberated, we become impersonal, and we have no senses. The wrong theory. We have our senses eternally. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Mamai Vamsho Jiva Loke Jiva Bhuta Sanatana. Eternally, we are part and parcel of Krishna, and we are situated as his fragmental part and parcel with all the faculties of the spirit soul, having the functions of the spirit soul. Spirit soul is a person, basically. That's what we are discussing. It's not impersonal. Personality means with the senses. So we are part and parcel of Krishna, means like Krishna has those qualities, those wonderful attributes, we also have in a minute quantity because we are small part. It's like the big ocean and a drop of water in the ocean. A drop of water in the ocean has all the same chemical properties as the big ocean. But the quantity wise, the ocean is very vast and the drop is very minute, minuscule. Likewise, we also have qualities like Krishna. Actually, if we study our wonderful personality, we can get some glimpse of how Krishna will be. If it is multiplied unlimited number of times. That is what Krishna is. He has unlimited qualities, unlimited attributes, unlimited wonderful features. That is Krishna. So by logic and reason, however, this cannot be so because all of us have senses, right? A minute particle of spiritual force, even if it is smaller in size than an atom, has its senses. This is proved beyond doubt. It's like we saw bacteria or even the smallest, microbes also have senses. They're all living entities. These senses, being covered by material elements, manifest themselves in a perverted way. So right now, the senses what you are having, right? What has happened is the senses are covered by the material elements. Material elements means the material nature has given us one specific body, in particular combination, permutation. And how it is given? Based on our inclination to enjoy this material world. We are this body. I am this body is soul. We are misidentifying. That is the problem. Right now, I am thinking I am this body. It's like if I am going in a car, if I wrongly think that I am this car, that is my wrong understanding. Likewise, if I think I am this body, then there is a wrong understanding. So likewise, we have to understand that our body needs, our body, what we are having right now, is just a covering of our spirit soul. This important principle we have to understand. This is the basic thing which Krishna explains from the very beginning. That you are not the body, you are within the body, your spirit soul. This body is only a covering, the dress. So we have to purify the senses, and when the senses are purified, we can engage them for the pleasure of the master of the senses. So the whole process of devotional service is to purify the senses. Purification, why? Because right now, the senses what we have are always driving us to enjoy the senses in different way, independently of Krishna. We being part and parcel of Krishna, we are supposed to serve Krishna in our natural situation. It's like you are having your hands. Your hands are meant to serve you, right? Your body. If they're not serving you, then what is the use of these hands? Likewise, the living entities, spirit souls, are part and parcel of Krishna. Now, if they start developing contrary desires to Krishna, they got disconnected from Krishna. And because of which, they are getting different types of existences as punishment, life after life. So sooner we realize that we are part and parcel of Krishna and come back to our original situation, that is called purification of senses. then we engage only in the pleasure of master of the senses. That is Krishna's pleasure. Krishna is the master and proprietor of his senses. When we say master and proprietor, then all the things of the proprietor should be used for his pleasure, his enjoyment. It's like you're working for a company or an establishment. Then you're working for the pleasure of that master of that establishment, owner of the establishment, proprietor of the establishment. Right? That is the purpose. So likewise, Krishna is the master and proprietor of our senses. So the senses are not ours. To be used for his service. It's a wonderful concept which we have to contemplate. Therefore, because we are part and parcel of Supreme Lord, our senses are borrowed from him. They are on rental. Let's see. We have taken a rented car. It's not ours. It's taken as a rent and it will be used and given back. Or you stay in a rented house. Likewise, this body, the senses are all rented from Krishna. So actually, master is whom? Master is Krishna. The best thing is to use the senses for his sense gratification and not for our own. This is the process of pure Krishna consciousness. So this is the wonderful principle which is being explained, that we are not impersonal. We as spirit souls are personalities. But specific persons, individual persons, having specific functions, faculties of different aspects like desiring, seeing, then thinking, willing, experiencing. So when you engage all these various aspects of our senses for Krishna's satisfaction, right now we're using it for me and mine, myself and my extended self. I'm using this for these purposes. That is causing us entanglement and changing of our bodies. When you use it for Krishna, that is the right purpose, that is the right way of using it, because Krishna is the master of our senses, is the proprietor of the senses. Right? That is the process of Krishna consciousness, which seems to be a very natural way of conclusion. So we have some examples of pure devotion Prabhupada is giving us. How this pure devotion looks like it is very theoretical or not very practical. So for this, Prabhupada gives us a wonderful example. From the Srimad Bhagavatam, Lord Chaitanya gives an example of pure devotion. It is said in the Bhagavatam that Krishna is situated in everyone's heart. Lord is situated in everyone's heart. This also is corroborated in Bhagavad Gita very clearly, that Sarvasya Chaham Hridisannivishta. The Lord is seated in everyone's heart. The Lord as Paramatma is sitting in everyone's heart. This is Krishna's situation. Therefore, just as rivers flow and their natural tendency is to reach the sea, so as soon as one hears the glories of the Lord, his soul is at once attracted towards the Supreme Lord. The wonderful example given in Bhagavatam. So Lord is sitting as Paramatma within our hearts. And the natural tendency of the rivers is what? They're all flowing towards the sea. It's like the Ganga river is originating from Gangotri. It's flowing towards the Bay of Bengal. Big sea there. So as soon as one hears the glories of the Lord, what happens? His soul is at once attracted towards the Supreme Lord. So Lord is seated as Paramatma. And Lord is seated as Paramatma for what? Just to awaken this understanding in us that we have forgotten Krishna for many millions of lives. So Krishna is giving us opportunity to remember, to somehow remind us that we are his part and parcel. This aspect Krishna wants us to somehow make us understand. That's why he's sitting as Paramatma, waiting for our when we accept this aspect. Such a wonderful, merciful, compassionate Lord. We are all forgotten Krishna, but Krishna is just anxiously waiting. His anxiety is more than ours. He's constantly accompanying us in every body as Paramatma, as Super Soul. Look at his wonderful love, compassion. And he's waiting when you will turn your face towards him. And, so when you start hearing about Krishna's wonderful qualities, wonderful, his leelas, his form, you see, and you start tasting his prasadam, then what happens? That natural attraction for Krishna is awakened. That is the point which Prabhupada is trying to make here. Just as the river's natural tendency is to flow towards the sea. So this is the beginning of pure devotional service. Hearing about and glorifying the Lord are identical with the transcendental nature of the Lord, and so by doing so, one will always be in association with the Lord. This brings freedom from all sorts of fear. Just see. When you start hearing, glorifying, you're directly in contact with Krishna, transcendental nature of Krishna. And in that way, you're in association with Krishna. Your original situation of being in association with Krishna is awakened. As soon as there is a chanting vibration, Hare Krishna, immediately Krishna's paraphernalia, Krishna's name, Krishna's fame, Krishna's abode, Krishna's associates, everything all of a sudden become manifested within because he is present. This is the wonderful aspect. So, this is the simplest process which is given by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Down through all the acharyas. Prabhupada personally, delivered this holy name to the entire world. Why? When you start chanting Hare Krishna, immediately what happens? Everything about Krishna, his name, his form, his fame, his dhamma, abode, his associates, everything will become manifest because he is present. Krishna is present in the holy name. It is said, Kalikale Nama Rupe Krishna Avatar. Simply chanting Hare Krishna, you bring down Krishna on your tongue. And all the aspects of Krishna is manifested in us. It is a matter of time. It depends on your sincerity to chant Hare Krishna mantra. And once this is done, Krishna reveals everything to us through his holy name. So this is a secret which we have to understand. And Prabhupada explains us in a very nice way with one more example. It is the beginning of one's Krishna consciousness. When you start chanting Hare Krishna, your dormant Krishna consciousness gets awakened. To remember by reference to a context means, but as soon as one hears a code word, one at once remembers all the information behind that code. In business, there are some codes. It is called Bentley's code. Or in science also, we have physics, chemistry, we have some formulas. Newton's laws of motion or gravitation. Like that, when you just hear that law itself, you'll get the whole theory behind that wonderful law. So likewise, when you hear about Krishna or simply hear Krishna's names, it's like a code word. You'll get to, you'll get the revelation of all the wonderful aspects about Krishna. Right? It's called remember by reference to a context. Right? Similarly, when our minds are attracted to Krishna and everything about Krishna simply by hearing the glorification of his qualities, that is the beginning of pure Krishna consciousness. Then there is no more gati or movement of the mind. It's a very wonderful concept Prabhupada is giving us here. So when our minds are only attracted to Krishna and everything about Krishna simply by hearing a little glorification of his qualities. So when you're chanting, your whole attention should be on the sound of Krishna. And what happens? Automatically, the mind is not distracted here and there. It is just focused on Krishna. Prabhupada says, chant Hare Krishna and simply hear the same chant. This is the process. And when you start doing this repeatedly, bead after bead, mala after mala, on your japa mala, then you see The advancement in Krishna consciousness happens very swiftly, very quickly. Very soon, you will have the realizations by Krishna's mercy that I am part and parcel of Krishna. I am supposed to be serving Krishna only. Right now, people are not having this understanding because their minds are attracted and diverted to so many things. That is the thing. That is the secret. Very wonderful thing Prabhupada is revealing here, that when you engage our senses in Krishna's service this way, by simply chanting the holy name and hearing the very same holy name with full attention, not getting our mind diverted to any other thing, then what happens? Your mind will become absorbed in Krishna thoughts and it will purify our existence. So we have one more wonderful example of the great devotees called gopis, who left everything for Krishna. It was just that way with the gopis. As soon as they heard the sound of Krishna's flute, they gave up everything. With regard to gopis example, if you see, the dead of night when they heard Krishna's flute, they left everything and ran towards Krishna. Which means Krishna's anything, Krishna's name, his flute sound, or his form, or his remembrance will trigger that level of devotion in pure devotees that they don't want anything else other than Krishna's devotion. So gopis' example is that they heard the flute of Krishna's wonderful sound, and then the dead of night they gave everything. Some of them were lying down, some of them working in their family affairs, some were taking care of their children. But as soon as they heard Krishna's flute, they forgot everything and they rushed to him. That is what we hear from Bhagavatam very nicely. They were all engaged in different household affairs. All of them were married women. Some were tending their children, some were serving their husbands, some were attending their in-laws. But when they heard Krishna's flute, nothing could stop them. They forgot everything and rushed to Krishna. Their husbands and their brothers and their fathers said, "Why are you going and leaving your duty?" Right? Well, it's like in our case also, when we became full-time devotees, now our parents and our relatives were very, very upset that why are you giving up your duties to your family? But the gopis did not care. They simply left because that is the natural call, actual situation of the spirit soul. There is no impediment and no stumbling block in that merge of the mind with Krishna. That is the beginning of pure devotion. Actually, pure devotion is such a wonderful aspect that you will not bother about what others say, what these people think, because this is what you are supposed to do as spirit soul. This realization has come about in your understanding by Krishna's mercy. Awakening has happened. Right? It's a nice small story I would like to mention here with regard to Prabhupada's personal life. Prabhupada said, I was working as in his household life times. He used to work as a manager in a chemical laboratory. So very close to his chemical laboratory where he was working, there was a more factory wherein the management of that factory changed. And the management was taken over by a Muslim owner. So he immediately ordered all his employees that from tomorrow onwards, everybody should come without any tilak on your face. This was almost 80-90 years old back story. People used to have their traditional way of their face, other things being followed. So he ordered everybody, every employee, nobody should come with your any marks on your face, tilaks on your face. Everybody should come bare foreheads. So like this order was passed and everybody strictly followed except one person. He daringly put tilak and came. So when the owner saw, oh, this person is very daring and doesn't want to give up his faith, so then he announced, except this person, nobody should wear. Right? So like this, the point is how you are determined. If you're not, I have to follow my, the actual understanding of what Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita. Then nobody can stop. That's the point. Krishna as Paramatma directs everybody to appreciate it, actually. As we saw Prabhupada also when he went to America, he did not change his dress. He did not go in some in Western dress, or he did not stop wearing tilak when he went to America. He was wearing the same, the sannyasi dress, even in the coldest winters. Right? And he was wearing tilak every day. So all the Vaishnava dress and the etiquettes he was following. So this is the beginning of pure devotion. There's no impediment. Our impediment is only our mind. Right? When you want to do service to Krishna, there is no impediment. Ahituki apratihata, it is called. And one more wonderful concept which we have to understand in today's session before we close is what is known as we are not designed as independent enjoyers. By design or by our makeup, by constitution, we are made in a different way. Right now we're thinking, I can independently enjoy. That is the mood, that is the nature. When you say we have to serve Krishna, we have to, rather give our enjoyment to Krishna, it looks like as though Krishna is very selfish. That's what this mood, understanding we get, but that is not the point. Actually, serving Krishna, you get satisfied. Just like by serving this body, by providing the food to the stomach, through the hands, pick up food and put in the mouth chews it and then puts to the stomach. Your hand gets nourished. So the concept of we being independently enjoying is not the proper understanding. We are subordinate enjoyers. We are participant enjoyers with Krishna. That is the understanding. So it is the concept which Prabhupada explains here. The last point which I'm going to cover. So Purushottama means Krishna. This is the name Krishna has, Purushottama. This is Purushottama Yoga in 15th chapter, Bhagavad Gita. Name of that chapter is called Purushottama Yoga. It means the best of the Purushas. The word Purusha means enjoyer. The conditioned living entities here are false enjoyers, imitation enjoyers. Right? Now here, all of us think that I am the enjoyer. Everybody thinks that way. That's why you're in the material world. In this material world, all living entities are acting as Purushas. Purusha means I want to enjoy, independently enjoy. How much I can extract enjoyment from this person, that person, or different people, different situations, different objects. Like this, I am constantly looking forward for. The more exact meaning of Purusha is male. The male is considered to be the enjoyer and the female is considered to be the enjoyed. Called Purusha and Prakriti, the concept of Purusha Prakriti in the spiritual, in the Vedic understanding. In the material world, whether one has a male or a female body, everyone has a propensity to enjoy, and therefore everyone is called Purusha. It's a very important principle. Here, the propensity to enjoy is what matters, whatever body you are in, male body or female body. Now, your propensity to enjoy, how much I can extract, enjoyment from other person. All interactions and all transactions in the material world is based on how much I can get enjoyment, how much I can enjoy, how much I can exploit other person. This is the whole basis. But actually, the only Purusha is the Supreme Lord. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is the only Purusha. This is what Krishna explains in Bhagavad Gita, because everybody are subordinate enjoyers, which means we are his part and parcels. How I can become supreme enjoyer? We living entities are his energy, Mamai Vamsha Jiva Loke, and he is the supreme enjoyer. This is revealed in Bhagavad Gita very clearly. That he is the supreme personality and we are all subordinate entities. We are not Purusha. Energies are employed for enjoyment, and your energies instruments of the Supreme Person. It's like I gave the example of hand and different organs serving the body. Therefore, Purushottama is the Supreme Transcendental Person, Krishna. When our pure devotion for the Supreme Personality of God is employed and there are no impediments or stumbling blocks, that is the symptom of pure Krishna consciousness. Right? So, by design, we are made in such a way, our constitution is such that we are supposed to serve Krishna. And in that, by giving pleasure to Krishna, we are going to get pleasure. That is the pleasure we are supposed to get. Not that independently I am seeking pleasure, that is not the right way. That is only going to end us in frustration. Each of us is doing that in the material world. So when our pure devotion for the Lord in this way is employed by serving Krishna, there is no other obstacle in the material world. Nobody can stop this. This is called pure Krishna consciousness. So we'll discuss more as we conclude in our last session next week and try to wrap up all the understandings and get the complete understanding of this whole subject matter. So for today, we will close here. Anybody has anything to ask, discuss, online, any questions are there, let me know. Post. Okay, so looks like there are no questions. So we will close for today. Thank you everybody for participating in the session. Hare Krishna. Jai Shri